Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. I am your host Saur, and today we have a little bit of a different video for you. As you can see, my co-host Scotty is not here today because we are going to be playing a tier making game. This is a game where I'm going to rank the players on the Inter Miami roster based on certain rules, and those rules have been set by Scotty, which I haven't heard before. So hopefully you guys can play along and enjoy this. And if you guys like it, we'll do another one of these videos with me setting the rules and Scotty doing the tier list. So let's start by hearing what the rules are.
All right, Saur, welcome to tier maker game number 1. You have 5 tiers to rank every single Inter Miami player. I've included Matias Rojas and Marcelo Weigandt. I don't know if we've seen them play so far, but I put them in, and I want to hear what your thoughts are. Here are the rules. 30 players for Inter Miami, all 30 that we expect to be the roster over the course of the next few months until the summer window. No Facundo Farias, no Leo Alfonso. Everyone else is fair game. Here are your 5 tiers. Number 1, game breaker. The game breaker are the players that take over games all the time. These guys are cheat codes. Tell me who belongs at that level. The difference makers. These are the guys that impact games in positive ways. When they don't show up, your team is worse off for it. These guys are difference makers. MLS regulars, tier number 3. These are the guys that are good, solid players. They belong in this league. They impact the game positively. They don't leave you out to dry. They're good, solid players. Tier number 4, for the future. These are guys with bright futures, but maybe aren't quite there yet. Tell me who belongs in the MLS regulars because they're ready to contribute and who is for the future. And then move on. Nobody on this roster doesn't belong on this roster, but who doesn't belong on this roster for the long term? Who isn't good enough to take this team to a championship? I want to hear from you. Those are the rules. Good luck.
All right, so as you guys heard, those were the rules. We've got 5 different tiers. We have the game breakers, difference makers, MLS regulars, for the future, and those to move on. All right, I will go by the list of players that are here below me. There are a couple that you're not able to see, but I'll shout them out when we get to them. But let's start and get into this. First, we have Luis Suarez, who is obviously a difference maker, but he's a game-breaking difference maker. So I'm going to put him in the first tier. The reason for this is at the start of the season, there were a lot of questions about whether Luis Suarez is actually worth someone who's going to make a difference in this team. Is he still up to the MLS standards? Can he actually contribute to this team and score goals? Listen, he's on the way to secure himself an MVP position, and he's been scoring left, right, and center. He's been assisting as well. We did a previous video where we ranked the players based on their current performance levels, and Luis Suarez, apologies, was number 1 on that list for me. So he goes right into that great game-breaking position. In some of the toughest games that we're going to have this season, we need him to be firing, and he can make something out of nothing, get into positions where he can score, and that's why he's a game breaker. Next, we have Leo Campana. Oof. I am confused whether I should put him in the difference making list or the MLS regular list, but I think he's going to be on the front side of the MLS regulars. I think he's a great backup striker, probably the best backup striker that any team has in the MLS. I think he definitely has a place on this team without Suarez as well. He will definitely score in case Suarez is injured. He will definitely be that starter that we can rely on to score the goals. But currently, because he hasn't played as many games as a starter, I don't want to say that he's the difference maker. I'm going to put him in the top end of MLS regulars because any team in the MLS will be happy to have him. After this, we have Shanyder Borgelin. Okay. I'll say we move him on. I'm not a massive fan of him. He's obviously had a few contributions to this team. He's been able to have some appearances off the bench. He scored a goal in preseason off the bench as well. He's a utility option when nothing else is working. Throw him on and hope things work out for the best. But I think we can move him on and potentially get in a better backup striker, a third option striker if we need, or maybe even address a different position on the field, because I think we can get in a forward in the right wing position where currently Borgelin is being utilized by Tata, and maybe bolster that area instead. So as much as I like to hate putting him on that move on list, I think this roster can do without him and can maybe get an upgrade in him. Lionel Messi, well, any guesses where he's going to go? I think he's going to be in the game-breaking position, obviously, and even ahead of Luis Suárez, the greatest of all time. He has been absent for a couple of games now, and we've missed him sorely. This team has been needing that game-changing magic that Lionel Messi brings. There have been conversations about what this team is without Lionel Messi. I think this team is a lot more than without Lionel Messi. There are instances where this team can work without having Lionel Messi on the starting lineup, but as of now, they haven't shown it, and we've sorely missed him while he's been on the injury list. So anyone would be an idiot to put him in any other category. He is a clear and outright game breaker. All right, Robert Taylor. For those of us who've been listening to our podcast regularly, they know how much I love Robert Taylor. And I will be putting Robert Taylor in the difference maker position. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He brings so much to this team in that front line. He contributes defensively, he contributes offensively. After that league run of his, he's been invaluable. He's scored goals, he's contributed with assists. He is energetic, he is dynamic, and I think he deserves to be in that difference maker position, because when he's not playing on that left wing, we sorely suffer and we don't have a direct backup to him. So I'm going to put him in that difference maker position. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, but that's how much I value Robert Taylor as a player. Then we have Robbie Robinson. Of course, he has not played as much this season at all. This is a hard one because we haven't seen him play too much. He's obviously been one of the old pre-Messi era players who's been on this list for long. When he plugs in, he can, maybe be an MLS regular. So I'm going to put him in that MLS regular position because I think he can make a difference in some of the other MLS teams. Maybe not on this Inter Miami roster, but he's definitely a player that can, plug into an MLS team. So I'm going to put him there. Then Matías Rojas. Ooh. I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of him in terms of regular gameplay. I've seen videos of him from time to time. He seems like a speedy, dynamic, fast right winger. And I mentioned earlier that maybe we can get rid of we can get rid of Shanyder Borgelin and bring someone on the right wing position. If Matías Rojas comes in, that's definitely going to solve that puzzle a little bit, because at this point in time, if Messi is out, we've only got Julian Gressel who fills in that position, and he's not necessarily as dynamic and athletic and energetic as we need him to be. So having someone like Matías Rojas would be helpful. But since we haven't seen too much of him, I'm going to put him as an MLS regular, but maybe he changes my mind once he comes onto this roster and maybe stakes a claim for that right wing position when Messi is out. Julian Gressel, he is a crucial player for this team. I think he was signed with a lot of potential. I think he hasn't shown as much potential thus far. He's had some really good games, but there have been certain games where we've been wanting more from him. He's definitely a great player, definitely an MLS regular, but I think on this team, when he plays in that midfield, he can be a difference maker and someone who, if doesn't play well, shows. So I think just for that reason, when he's not to his optimum, Inter Miami can slightly suffer. I would like to put him in the difference maker position, especially when we are absent with Lionel Messi, and we need someone to be that creative outlet. He has that potential to put in those great crosses from the right wing, but at the same time come into the center, pick the ball up, and dominate the creative energy of this team. And we need him to be that, and he can be that. He's shown that he can do that. Hopefully, he can be more consistent going forward. But Julian Gressel is definitely a difference maker on this list. Next, we have Santi Morales. I need to probably quicken up the pace here because there's a lot to get through. But Santi Morales, I'm going to put for the future. I think he's definitely someone who's going to get minutes in the next few seasons, not in this one. He's going to have a say only off the bench eventually. But as of now, he's still someone that needs to be built up a little bit more. He's a, player who's probably going to be important in the future, not as of now. Benjamin Cremaschi. Oh, this one makes me a little bit hard to judge because he is obviously a fantastic player, probably one of the best midfielders that we have. Is he a game breaker or not? Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to put him. Yes, there you go. I think he's a game breaker. I think he's one of the best midfielders that we have in this team. He's been on the sidelines with an injury, obviously, but we're going to see the difference that he brings to this team when he starts playing regularly and fits into that midfield, especially with Redondo out right now. I think he's going to have a massive, massive influence. Coming into this midfield, I think he brings in this level of energy. He brings in this level of dynamism and youth that alongside Diego Gómez is going to make a big difference, but I think he's even better than Diego Gómez and his ceiling is immense. When Benjamin Cremaschi has a great game, he can absolutely change the game. So I'm going to put him as a game breaker right next to Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez. Maybe that's putting a little bit of pressure on him. Maybe that's hyping him up a little bit too much, but that's how good I think he is. David Ruiz, this one's slightly easier. I'm going to put him on the MLS regulars. He's a great player. I think I really like him. Off the bench, he's a really good option as well. I don't like when Tata plays him in the right back position or the right wing back position. I personally prefer him in the center. But I think he's definitely a player who have an impact on any MLS squad. He'll have an impact on this Inter Miami squad as well, but I think he's an MLS regular. Next, we have Diego Gómez, difference maker. I think he goes above Robert Taylor and Julian Gressel. He's come back from that pre-Olympics a different player. Last season, he wasn't that great. This season, he's been absolutely fantastic. I think he's found levels to his game that he hadn't previously shown before. He's a disruptor in the midfield. He can be defensively sound. He can intercept balls, tackle well, create a menace in the press. But now he's starting to show that he's a creative outlet as well. He can have that, take the ball on and run with it, have some really good runs into the final third. He's a good box-to-box option for the Inter Miami team that's only going to get better, and I think he's definitely a difference maker for this team, as he's starting to show now. Federico Redondo, oof. A profile that we don't necessarily have on this team. I'm going to put him slightly above Julian Gressel. I think he's a profile that we sorely missed next to Sergio Busquets. I think having Sergio Busquets in that creative deep line playmaker position sort of leaves us wanting for a defensive option, but Federico Redondo fills that defensive option and also contributes offensively. I think he's a really good connect between the defense in the midfield and then the midfield in the final third. Not as athletic and not as pacey as someone like a Diego Gómez, for instance, but I think he really has the ability to drive with the ball, show strength on the ball, and also can distribute really well. Shame that he's going to be out for the next 8 weeks, and we're really going to miss him. But I think he's a difference maker in this team. When he plugs in, I think he's really bringing a great balance into this Inter Miami midfield. Sergio Busquets. For those of us who have listened to our podcast, I've been critical of him this season specifically. I don't think he's been at his best so far, but he's a game breaker. When Sergio Busquets has a great game, nothing can stop him. I think he's one of the best midfielders this game has seen in the modern era. He's absolutely fantastic on the ball. His mind is brilliant. He can unlock defenses with passes as well. He hasn't had the best start to the season. I think there's been issues with his ball distribution. He loses the ball too often. Yet starting to change that slowly and steadily. And I think having Redondo next to him really helped. But I think once we get that midfield balance right, we're going to get the best out of Sergio Busquets. And having him in with that experience, with his ability to just unlock defenses and the IQ that he brings, he's a game breaker. No chance that he goes anywhere else on this tier list. Let me know what your thoughts are, because this is shaping up to be a very interesting tier list, and I'd love to hear what the listeners have to say and what the viewers have to say. Next on the list, we have Yannick Bright coming in, and he is going into an MLS regular position as of now. I think he's still young. He's still one who's going to grow into the season, and I'm sure once we do this later into the season, he might even go into the difference makers list. But I think about it, he's only played 2 games for Inter Miami. He's looked good, and I think he's the kind of player who can definitely make a difference on the team once he gets settled in. As of now, he's obviously young. He's not played too many games so far. He's just come off the bench 1 game, played 1 game. He's looked okay in terms of his creative outlook, but I think defensively he's really, really good. And he's only going to grow into the season. So for me, he fits into the regular MLS regular position as of now. Lawson Sunderland. I know Tata really likes him. I'm not sure whether I want to put him in. He's an MLS regular. Listen, I don't want to underplay his abilities. He's a good player. I don't see him one for the future. I don't see him. I would say I could put him into the move on list, but that might be a little too harsh because he can definitely come off the bench and do a job for this team. So I'm going to put him as an MLS regular. I think another team would be happy to take him, but I don't see him in a difference maker role. So that for me is Lawson Sunderland. Apologies. Next that we're looking at is Franco Negri. I think MLS regular again. I will put him. Yeah, I'll put him there, slightly above the rest. MLS regular, fantastic player, good backup for Jordi Alba. I think he's going to have a big role to play this season. He might even be defensively more sound than Jordi Alba. If we're playing a 3 at the back, maybe he fits in somewhere. And if, for instance, someone like Marcelo Weigandt gets injured, he can maybe do a job on the right side of the pitch. But I think he's a good player. He's definitely going to have a say in this season. An MLS team would be very lucky to have someone like a Franco Negri on their roster. So I'm going to put him in the MLS regular position. All right. Moving on, we've got Israel Boatwright for the future. No questions asked. I like what I saw of him in the preseason. I think he can definitely do a job as a backup right back. I was unhappy with Tata not putting him in the right back position when we let Yedlin go, but I think he's definitely going to have a role to play on this team going forward in the future. And he looks good. He looks silky. He looks good on the ball, slightly technical. And I'm excited to see what he has to offer in the future. No questions asked. Jordi Alba, game breaker, easily one of the best left backs, if not the best left back in the league. Has a fantastic offensive output to him, and he just plays so well with Messi and Suarez next to him. So no chance that he fits on any other tiers on this list either. All right, moving on to the right back position, we have Marcelo Weigandt. Haven't seen much of him yet. I will say from what I saw in the first game against New York City FC, he's definitely going to be a difference maker going forward. You know what? My justification for putting him in the difference maker position is that he's the only outright senior right back that we have on this list. If he's out, we're practically screwed. So he's a difference maker for sure. What I saw of him, he probably is an upgrade on DeAndre Yedlin. Maybe I'm, making a case slightly too early, but hopefully we see more consistently good performances from him. But he was really good against New York City FC, and I think that he's going to be a difference maker going forward. But just by the virtue of not having another right back on this roster who's, experienced, we've obviously got Israel Boatwright, but not having an out and out right back on this roster, he has to go in that difference maker role. Nico Freire, oof. Difference maker, MLS regular, what are we saying? What are we saying? I think. Oh, this is tough. He's been okay. He's been good, but I don't think he's been amazing. I think he is one of our starting center backs that we thought would have a big impact. He's obviously had a couple of injuries that he's sat out on games. He hasn't looked the best. He he obviously came back from an injury as well when he came into this squad. So maybe he's not found his fitness level yet. And eventually he's probably going to reach levels that we expect him to be. But as of now, based on his performances, I think he is an MLS regular. Noah Allen. For the future, yeah, let's put him in there. He's still young, still 19, still learning. One that I think we're definitely going to rely on if he can break that ceiling that we expect of him. He's young. He can play well on the left center back position. I know a lot of fans don't like him in that left back position, but we'll see how he gets utilized by Tata. But I think there's potential there. So I'm going to put him in for the future. Ryan Saylor, I would say he can be moved on. I think we need to bring in another defender who's probably first choice with a little bit more pace. I don't see a future for him on this team, so I'm going to put him there on the move on list. Serhiy Kryvtsov. Yeah, MLS regular for sure. I'm going to put him next to, let's see. Okay, I'm going to put him there. Oh, wait, why is David Ruiz so far back? Okay, there you go. I think, yeah, Kryvtsov's a good utility option. He's probably, I think, better than Nico Freire at this point in time. He's had, obviously, he brings experience, not very pacey, but a good option to have in the defense when you need him. Does a good job in certain games, but when we've got pacey opposition in front of us, he can be sort of got out. So not the best, doesn't cover everything that we need of a defender, but I think he's good. I'm going to put him as an MLS regular. Ian Fray. Could be a difference maker, but it depends what kind of Ian Fray comes back from injury. I'm going to put him above. There you go. Might rearrange this and recontemplate my decisions after I've done everyone, but as of now, this is the list and how it's shaping up to be. Ian Fray, I think, probably the best defender that we have pre-injury. Post-injury, I'm not sure what's going to be his case. I know he's had some major injuries that he's dealt with recently, but I think once he comes back, we'll see what kind of player he still is. And it's not easy psychologically recovering from all those injuries either. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes back and how he bounces back from that. But there's definitely a player there. I would say he's probably even a difference maker if he can show the levels that he has previously. Tomás Avilés, I'm going to pop him again into that MLS regular position. He's very young. Oh, actually, he's for the future. Yeah, there you go. He's for the future. I think there's a case to be made that even Ian Fray is for the future. They're still young, but I think Toto Avilés is our first choice centre back at this point in time. He started every single game. He's had some really good games. He's had some games where he's made a couple of errors and cost us defensively, lost the ball a few times, but he's still young, he's still developing, and there's definitely a player in there. I think he can go on and be the main centre back for this team, and he has plenty of capabilities that will be important for the future. So I'll put him as someone who's for the future. Tyler Hall, for the future. Haven't seen much of him yet, but I think there's definitely potential there. And he is going to be an important player in the future. I think there are a lot of nice up and coming players from the academy. Actually, Yannick Bright is also for the future as well. Might be worth popping him in there. Okay, there you go. Yannick Bright for the future. Next, easy decision. Drake Callender, absolutely fantastic back wall. With the defensive issues that we've had, he's been the one who's bailed us out from time to time. He is the game breaker. If he doesn't have a good game, Inter Miami does not have a good game. Fair and easy. CJ Dos Santos, MLS regular, wasn't very impressed with him against New York Red Bulls when Drake Callender was out. He's an okay backup option, I think, but I'm not sure if he's um, the best second choice goalkeeper. We can probably do better, but based on his performance against New York Red Bulls, I wasn't too impressed, but I want to give him more time. So I'd say he's an MLS regular. And then Cole Jensen, I haven't seen too much of him. I don't want to make too many judgments here, but I want to put him on, move on, and maybe get a better third choice goalkeeper. Could be for the future, but again, I don't want to make judgments based on not having seen too much of him. And that right there is the tier list. Let's go over it a little bit and see if we want to make any last minute changes. We got Lionel Messi in the game breaker list, along with Luis Suárez, Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, Benjamin Cremaschi, and Drake Callender. I'm happy with that. Difference makers, we've got Diego Gómez, fantastic player. I think he's just going to go get even better. And while we have him before he leaves for Europe, I think we need to make the most of him. Robert Taylor, personally, I absolutely love him. Federico Redondo, great player as well. Julian Gressel is a difference maker, and Marcelo Weigandt might be a controversial one on here, given that he's only played one game. But I think given that he's the only out and out right back, he deserves to be on there. MLS regulars, Leo Campana for sure. Ian Fray, I think he could be a potential difference maker, but I'm going to put him in that MLS regular position. Nico Freire, Franco Negri, yeah, David Ruiz, Kryvtsov, Robbie Robinson, Matthias Rojas. Don't really know much of him, so we'll see what goes on there. Haven't seen him play yet. Hopefully, he comes in and makes a difference. But yeah, Lawson Sunderland, MLS regular. Yeah, maybe even could be for the future, but I think he's an MLS regular. And then CJ Dos Santos plugs in there. For the future, we've got Yannick Bright, Santi Morales, Israel Boatwright, Noah Allen, Toto Avilés. I'm going to push Toto Avilés up top as well. There you go. And then Tyler Hall. And move on. Yeah, Borgelin, Ryan Saylor, and then Jensen. I think I'm happy with that tier list. I'm sure there's going to be some discussion and controversy about this. I'm sure Scotty's going to have a few things to say about it. But you know what? This is my tier list. He made the rules, but I made the tier list. So for me, this is the final tier list that I'm going to put forward. Give me your thoughts in the comments. Let me hear what you think about this. And if you have any suggestions of how this should be different, if you have any opinions about this, tell us more. And if you like this concept, and if you want me to make a tier list rules for Scotty and hear his opinions out, then let us know in the comments and we'll definitely do a video like this in the future. But thank you so much. That's been Saur, and this has been the Drive Pink Dialogue, a bit of a different video this time around. Hope you enjoyed, and see you later.